This past weekend of hockey was a little bit of a mixed bag for the Nashville Predators. We'll break down the highs and lows in our weekly plus minus segment and where the Predators go from here as the new year begins. That's today on the Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Predators your first listen of the day. Every single day, we your free daily Nashville Predators podcast that's available to you wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. I'm Nick Morgan. I'm a writer and editor at ontheforecheck.com, and I have a partner in crime.
You do. I am Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer and editor at InsideThePreds.com.
First off, Ann, welcome to 2023.
Yeah, it's so far. It's okay. I'm treading lightly, but it's okay. Happy New Year to you. Sounds like you had a much more fun New Year's Eve.
Did I?
Which should not be surprising.
Considering what happened to my college team?
Okay, that part not as great. It was great. We were talking about this before we recorded. If you aren't emotionally invested in the outcome of college football, that was incredible college football to watch.
Sure.
On the other hand,
yeah. I'm happy for the people that got entertained on New Year's Eve. They're very happy that your football entertained you.
At your expense. I'm sorry.
It's quite all right.
Yeah.
It was. Like I will say, if you were a neutral fan or just watching some games, that was certainly a good 1-2 punch of college football.
Yeah.
And or you could have spent the afternoon watching a Predators versus Vegas Golden Knights game, like I'm sure most of the country did.
Mm-hmm. I mean, who wouldn't choose that?
I mean, to be fair, great game.
It was a great game. And going into that game, that is not necessarily where my gastrointestinal system was going to gauge it. So yeah, it was a really great game. The outcome, we'll talk about that.
I mean, considering with 8 seconds left in regulation, it looks like it was going to be a regulation loss for the Preds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good little
it was a little something.
Yeah, it was like when Ohio State marched down the field, like Filip Forsberg's little hat trick goal with 5 seconds left. That was kind of the Ohio State what was it? The CJ Stroud run for 40 yards to get into the field goal range. You're like, we got you now.
Yes.
And then yeah, and then the overtime winner for Vegas was like the Noah Ruggles kick 50 yards wide of the goalpost. It was like, okay, well, at least we made it entertaining, right?
Yes, bless. I mean, can we just all shout out the athletes that have to stand there at the end of the game? Like it's like being the goaltender. Like I think you have to be a certain person to want to play goaltender, because in the end your stats are affected and it's just you and a net and a guy with a puck and a stick. Like, let's hear it for those athletes, even if they kick the field goal almost the opposite direction. Like, hey, for putting yourself out there.
Yeah, there you go, man.
Yeah.
I guess it's sorry if you're an Ohio State fan and you had to deal with that. Let's talk about it from the Predators' perspective, though, because these were 2 games right before you and I left. I was like, the way they're playing, this might kind of be what direction they go in to start the new year. And they get 3 out of 4 possible points. They do what they need to do against Anaheim. We're like, you absolutely should not win that or lose that game.
Oh gosh.
And they not only go out and win that game, but they beat the living crap out of Anaheim in the process, 6-1 win.
Yep.
Then they go to Vegas. We know Vegas is one of the best teams in the NHL right now.
True.
And they go in, and this is the game that, you know, kind of hinges on where I want to start the conversation, because the Predators played well enough to win. Like, they
Mhm.
went out there toe-to-toe with one of the best teams in the NHL, and there are some moments where they look like they were absolutely dominating.
There
Then,
were.
like that second period, there were some moments that you look back and be like, "What is this team doing?" And that's kind of, you know, I'm glad Mondays are plus minus where we can do like highs or lows, because it just seems like the concept of plus minus describes where this Nashville Predators team. It's like these moments where you look at it and say, okay, this is how they need to play. This is what gives you confidence that maybe they can be like, you know, kind of a top team in the NHL with this group of players if they make one or two tweaks. And then you see the other end where there's just stretches where you're like, let's just burn this all down.
Yeah, it's hard to know, and it's so frustrating because, again, here we are in January. It's very hard to know what is the takeaway with this group. After the Dallas loss, Roman Yossi was talking post game and was saying, you know, we're a confident group. Like, we believe we're headed in the right direction. We just, like you kind of said, we kind of need to make a couple of adjustments. We need to clean up a couple of things. And I feel like we're a really competitive group. And at the time, I'm like, Roman Yossi, are you just pretty, or are you also smart? Or are you just saying what athletes say? But you go into this Vegas Golden Knights game, and at one point, you know, the Predators in the in the third period, were down 4-2. And you're thinking, you know, there have been stretches where Vegas ran Nashville ragged. And then all of a sudden in that third period, Nashville, who had been pushing the whole game, like, I don't feel like they necessarily took their foot off the gas through the whole game. I felt like Vegas was maybe a little bit the better team, you know, just on paper and in general. But they hung in there the first and second period. The third period, they really pushed. And all of a sudden, you know, you're coming out of Vegas with a point. Now, the Predators have got to start winning games in overtime. That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
But against Vegas, I'm thinking, okay, maybe Roman Yossi is right. Maybe this is a confident team. Maybe this is a team that just needs to clean up one or two things. And maybe this is the team they are. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, you know, and we talked about this after the Dallas game, while you were gone, but that Roman Yossi quote where it's like, you know, we're getting better.
Yeah.
And, you know, you know, go back, not only Vegas, but that Dallas game, there were some moments where the Predators were absolutely in it, and just quality of hockey wise was a great game. That Colorado game,
Yes.
that, you know, we saw right before the break, that was like for the first, you know, 30 minutes of that game, you look at it, it's like, dude, the Preds are wiping the floor with them right now.
Yep.
And you go back and it's just like, you know, you watch them and it's like, yeah, they're really good. And then it just seems like one thing happens.
Yeah.
Like just one bad turnover that leads to a goal, one just kind of oopsie play or something like that.
Yes.
One ill-gotten penalty at the wrong time. And it looks like they just get stunned, where it just like leads to this 5-10 minute sustained pressure where you're just like giving up chance after chance after chance and making mistake after mistake after mistake. It just seems like that's kind of marred the Nashville Predators over this past 2 weeks. So I agree. I think they're getting better. They just can't figure out how to keep that like level of really good play that we're seeing during games and stretch it out towards 60 minutes. And again, you and I have said this a million times. No one is expecting you to be absolutely perfect
Right.
for 60 minutes. There's going to be some stretches where you give up a good run to the other team. You're going to make a bad turnover, a bad mistake that leads to a chance. That's fine. But if you're able to manage those and just have six, like, if you're going 60 minutes and 95% of the game you're playing lights out, and you're doing enough in those 95 minutes to keep the score up, to keep your foot on the gas, then you're going to walk away with a win. The
Mm-hmm.
Preds just haven't been able to do that yet. The stretches of negative play are just too long right now. But I agree. You shorten that. And I see the way they played against Vegas. I see the way they play against Dallas. I see the way they played against Colorado last week. It's hard not to say that this Predators team is at least going in the right direction.
I agree. And I think we're seeing something really different from Nashville that is very interesting to me, because one of the complaints about the Predators over the last couple of seasons and into the early part of this season is this is a team that cannot compete with teams with speed. Can't compete against Edmonton, can't compete against Tampa Bay, can't compete against Colorado. And yet you're seeing the Predators develop kind of this different game where they're not so far away from this identity hockey that's been kind of the big buzzword, this physical forechecking, hard hitting hockey. But they're also starting to play with more speed. You're seeing more rushes. You're seeing more 2-on-1s. You're seeing more of that happen. And I think as the season's going on, we're seeing this team have more than a one-dimensional attack. And I think that is paying off as they get more comfortable with that. Some of these mistakes may clean up. And, maybe the Predators are in for a good, stretch of games where that speed's going to pay off. It's just they've looked different. And it's funny because they've lost some games they shouldn't have lost. And I don't think we were overreacting when we were like, ooh, what's January going to look like in the Hines household?
Yeah.
But I think they're heading in the right direction.
Yeah. Later this week, because we got a lot of hockey coming up this week too to talk about. We're going to talk about maybe what the Predators have done well. So that's coming up on the show. But it's Monday, which means it's time for Plus Minus, where we get through the highs and lows of the Nashville Predators over the past couple weeks. Get to that in 1 second, but first, I want to mention today's show is sponsored by Athletic Greens and their product, which I use literally every day, AG1. I got this in a free little thing from our AG1 sponsors last year. Was very skeptical about it. Not a big green powder kind of guy. Wasn't sure of like the look of it. Wound up putting it in a bottle, shaking it up, giving it a taste. It tasted delicious. And I noticed after a few weeks of taking it, I had more energy. I had more focus, less bloating. I didn't have to have that afternoon crash nap during my lunch break because I was always feeling mentally focused and awake the entire day. And I owe it all after I started taking AG1. So you might as well, or you might be asking yourself, what is this stuff? Well, with one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day off right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, nervous system, immune system, energy, focus, recovery, aging, basically all of the things. It's lifestyle friendly. So whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free, whatever, it fits into your lifestyle. It's only 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, but it still tastes great. We know a lot of you are on your New Year's resolutions right now. You're looking for like a healthy way to start your day. Well, tons of people take some kind of multivitamin, and it's important to choose one with high quality ingredients that your body will actually absorb. And AG1 is a small micro habit with big benefits. And it's the one thing you can do every single day to take care of yourself. They have over 7,000 5-star reviews and recommended by professional athletes and leading health experts all around the world. So right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. All it is 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D, and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership of your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, Ann, talking hockey, it's Monday, and that means it's time for Plus Minus. This is where we go through the past week of Predators hockey and look for some positive things in the game that we give pluses to, and some things that need improvement that we give minuses to. So, Ann, start us off with a plus. Who are you giving a plus to?
Well, I think this one's probably very evident, especially after this weekend. But my first fat plus, the fattest plus of the week, goes to Mr. Filip Forsberg. Filip
Yes.
Forsberg, where have you been all our life? This is finally the week where things are coming together. And I spent way too much time down the Filip Forsberg statistical rabbit hole the other day, just trying to figure out like what is it that's working, what isn't working. And I think part of what is working is, we talk about John Hines and the line blender, but I think he may have come up with kind of a nice combination with Juuso Parssinen and Colton Sissons. He has 7 shots on goal, 4 goals, 2 assists. Had a hat trick, his 9th hat trick of his career in Vegas. Yeah, that's a lot of hats, y'all. He is well accessorized. And Forsberg is just finally, and I feel like everybody has been waiting for something to kick in. I mean, obviously last season, incredible season, he and Matt Duchene, neither one of them has come close to sort of reproducing that. And yet all of a sudden it's starting to come together for Filip Forsberg. And, last season, digging into his statistics last season, looked at some different things, and he was finishing well above expected. So his expected goals was, for his wrist shot, for example, was 13 expected goals, but he scored 22. So I think we're looking for that anomaly to happen again, and it may not happen again. But what we're seeing is the Filip Forsberg that we saw last season. So shooting better, the goal that he had, the first goal against Vegas, where he skated in and then kind of skated out and around the perimeter of the net to move Gibson and then shoot that high angle shot for a goal. Oh my goodness, Filip Forsberg is really good at hockey. And he's one of those ones where without him, the Predators are just not the same team. So the fattest plus to our favorite little Swedish mustached man, Filip Forsberg.
Yeah, and I want to talk about Forsberg because I had a feeling we're going to be including in our plus minus here.
Yes.
5 goals in his last 3 games. He had 3 points against Anaheim too, so including that Dallas game, that's now 7 points in the last 3 for Filip Forsberg, and it's all, it's no coincidence that you look at the last 2 Nashville Predators scores and see 5-4 and 6-1 and look at the score sheet and realize, okay, Filip Forsberg is cooking right now. That's who they needed to cook, and that was who they had the little kitchen timer set to. Because Filip Forsberg, with that big contract and that big year he had last year, I think a lot of people looked at that roster and said, okay, of all the guys that you look at and you're like, who's most likely to reproduce the season they did last year? Filip Forsberg, to me, was kind of that guy.
Yes.
Because, he's still, young enough that he's got some room to grow, where there's a little bit left in his game that I think he can still get. We also, if you look at the stats last year, the pace he had probably should have had more points than he had just because he missed so much time with injury. And you look at him this year, these last couple of games, and it's like, this is the Filip Forsberg I thought we were going to get.
Yes.
I think it's important to note that him starting to heat up a little bit and find the back of the net, not only find the back of the net, but set up some really good goals, because he had some good plays to set up other offensive chances in that Anaheim Ducks game. He had 2 assists in that game. it's no coincidence that you look at that and you look at the Nashville Predators and say, okay, well, it looks like they're playing better the past few weeks. And then you check the stat sheet and see Filip Forsberg is starting to find his groove. He's a couple multi-point games away from being back at a point per game pace, which is kind of where you want him to be based on the contract you're giving him.
Gosh, yes. And so much comes out, like you said, mentioning he had assists, so much comes out of and through Filip Forsberg. When you go back and you look at December's games where he struggled, you're looking at 1-0 games. You're looking at 2-1 games. When you get Filip Forsberg cooking, you're going to have some games where the Predators can put up 6 goals, 4 goals. And that's going to make a difference, not just for him, but for other players on this team. Like, I don't know, UC Saros. So huge to have Filip Forsberg cooking right now.
Yeah, I am sure UC Saros is very thankful for not having to do the whatchamacallit, the long sustained 1-1-1-2-1 games for
Yes.
the entire
Yes.
thing. I'm sure he's very thankful for that. And I'm gonna kind of go off the board a little bit with my first plus.
I like it.
This is just somebody that I kind of want to highlight. He had a goal against Vegas, and he had an assist last week against Dallas. And that's Jeremy Lauzon. And that's
Okay.
a little bit off the board.
Yeah.
And he also, one of the main reasons I want to highlight him is he also has been very, very good on the penalty kill for
Mhm.
the vast majority of this season. And look, we talk about him a lot because there are some plays he makes that it's like, what are you doing, man? Like, what is that?
Mhm.
A couple of kind of penalties, but you look at him in the last couple of games, and when he cleans up his game, when he doesn't make those kind of like, oh, what are you doing type of mistakes, he's a pretty good bottom pair defenseman.
Yes.
You're starting to see maybe what David Poile saw in him when not only did he make that trade to get Jeremy Lauzon, but he also gave him a 4-year deal. Um, yeah, I mean, he's, I think, very underappreciated. You see it a lot on the penalty kill. The Preds only had one shorthanded chance, but he and Ryan McDonough were out there. I mean, Vegas had the puck in the offensive
Yes.
zone almost the entire time, but
Yep.
they just couldn't get a lot of good looks because even when they got it there, Jeremy Lauzon was blocking lanes. Jeremy Lauzon was in position just enough to kind of not give, the shooter a good look, or he was that, it was either a block shot or it was enough of a tough angle that Kevin Lankinen or UC Saros, depending on what game we're talking about, was there to make the save. And, I get it. Like, in this new kind of modern NHL, people value, puck possession more
Right.
so than I think traditional like defensive block shots or hits or, that kind of stay at home defensive stats. But, when you look at Jeremy Lauzon and you look at how well this Preds penalty kill has been playing really over the past, couple of weeks, and you look and you say, okay, there's value to what he brings to the team. And so I want to highlight that. And plus, a goal the other night against Vegas.
He looked so
He was
surprised.
so surprised. Yeah. Did not look like he was expecting that. So a
Like,
goal
hey.
there and an assist in Dallas. So, hey, 2 points in 3 games for Jeremy Lauzon. So getting it done on the scoreboard, too.
I love it. I love it. Do we want to go minus or do we want to stay positive?
I don't know. Just me.
I'm gonna just dip my toe in the minus before we take our next break. Just want
Okay.
to mention this one in passing. I don't want to dwell on it. I don't want to beat this dead horse. But a minus for me in this past week is, oh my gosh, with the turnovers in the defensive zone already. Like,
That
and there's not a ton you can say about it. Like, UC Saros could have had a shutout against Anaheim, but bless his heart, Tanner Jeannot turned the puck over in the defensive zone, trying to exit the zone, gave them a goal. Same thing happened, bless his heart, Tommy Novak against Dallas, just trying to get the puck out of the zone and just an errant, careless pass. And the next thing it's just please, it's a gentle egg. Gently and carefully take the puck out of the zone. Don't just hit it and hope a guy with a shirt that matches yours picks it up, because sometimes that's not happening. And oh my gosh, with those turnovers. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's definitely something you kind of hope they clean up for sure.
Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. We're going to touch on a couple more minuses, but of course we'll end on a plus because we are Hawktimists. Before we do that, though, we want to thank you for making Locked On Predators your first listen today. We want you to go and check out Locked On NHL Prospects, especially if you are a Nashville fan, because who is hosting the upcoming NHL draft? Why, that would be Nashville is hosting the upcoming NHL draft. So to prepare you and to prepare us, let me recommend to you Locked On NHL Prospects. It is your daily podcast that covers the next generation of hockey superstars. And it's all going to lead up to the NHL draft in June, right here in Nashville. It will have NHL draft rankings and top prospect comparisons for every team. So go and check out Locked On NHL Prospects. It's available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
And I have one minus, and it's a bone I need to pick with the Nashville Predators here lately.
Okay.
Can we just talk about the overtime?
Oh, dude.
Dude. The Predators now have lost 4 out of their 5 past overtime games. We, of course, saw the Predators give up a late goal against Colorado to get away to the shootout. We saw them give up a goal the other night against the Vegas Golden Knights. It's frustrating because the Preds in overtime this year started out pretty good. Like, they're on a run of a 4-2 overtime record, and then just for whatever reason, kind of fell off a cliff here over the past month or so. 5 overtime games since the beginning of December, and 4 losses in that span. Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, you get a point. But, I would really love to see the Preds, whether it's a shootout, like get to a shootout, or particularly here lately, get yourself a chance to get that extra point, especially because you have so much ground to make up.
Yes.
I don't know. Like, I don't know. Maybe you're looking at like the 3v3 pairs and saying, okay, is there something that we're doing there that's, a little bit off?
Yeah.
Because it looks like they just don't get a lot of chances in these 3v3s here lately, and eventually they just kind of crack and lead to a goal. Maybe a thing to nitpick.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I feel like regulation wins feel just as good as overtime wins. We don't need the extra time to be ready to cheer and be excited. So just wrap it up in 60.
Wrap it up in 60, or don't blow it in 63 or whatever.
Fact. I want to throw out one more minus, just one more little minus. I know it feels like we're being negative, but we'll end on a positive. You know who we are.
Yeah.
I'm going to give a negative to the January schedule. Now, we talked a lot about the December schedule. We've talked a lot about the December schedule. It was brutal, y'all. It was a haul. It was like the Iron Man in really bad weather in Hawaii. And then I flip the page and you look at January and you're like, seriously? The Nashville Predators play teams with winning record, all but 4.
Yeah.
And none of the games are gimme games against the team with losing records. So we have Montreal twice. We haven't seen them yet. We'll see them tomorrow night. And then we have Columbus Blue Jackets. Don't know if you remember, but lost to those guys.
They lost to one of the few Blue Jackets wins this year.
You're welcome. And then who is the other one that we lost to? I didn't write it down. Oh, Ottawa. Lost to Ottawa. So we see them again. And then St. Louis is kind of just floating in that like weird middle. 1-1 against them, but also lost to them too.
Yeah.
You know, we're playing the top teams in the Metropolitan Division. We're playing Toronto, who is second right now in the Atlantic. Like, cut us a break already.
And the Buffalo Sabres, who are like 7, who have won like 8 out of their last 10 or something like that. They're on the schedule. The Flames are on the schedule. They're getting better. LA, who the Predators lost to earlier this year. Toronto, Toronto. Carolina, Ovi. I mean, it's a gauntlet. Like, schedule is a gauntlet.
It is a gauntlet. I mean, I can't wait till February. I mean, I've peaked a little bit at February because I'm like, surely it has to end. And as of now, February looks a little bit easier, but I'm telling you, with this January schedule, the Nashville Predators need to continue on the trajectory they're on if they're gonna want to turn this around, because it's gonna be a rough stretch. It's gonna be a rough month of hockey.
Yeah, you're gonna have some stretches where you have to be like, okay, we got to prove that we are a pretty good hockey team right there. And I got 2 pluses.
Yay!
And the show on.
All right.
Would you like to hear the one that's going to make everybody mad, or the one that, may only make like 1 or 2 people mad?
Oh, let's make them mad right off the bat.
You want to make the biggest mad right off the bat?
All right.
Well, I'm going to give a plus to Eeli Tolvanen.
Oh no!
If you didn't notice, so the story here, Eeli Tolvanen has been a healthy scratch his entire tenure with the Seattle Kraken. Just throwing that out there. He finally got into the game yesterday, almost a sort of a full month after, or I guess it wound up being like 25 days after he was waived by the Nashville Predators. His first game action since November 19th.
Yes.
And lo and behold, of course, he gets in there and scores a goal on his first shot with the Seattle Kraken 3 minutes into the second period. His very first shot with the Kraken is a goal in his very first game. And he also got some power play time with Seattle last night as they're shuffling people around due to injuries. So Eeli Tolvanen, I mean, look, the situation in Nashville is what it is.
Yes.
Clearly he hasn't been able to find the lineup much in Seattle, considering yesterday was his first NHL game. But you know what? We're cheering for Eeli. We want to see Eeli do well.
Absolutely.
And seeing him get a goal in his first shift, yeah, there's a shout out.
Yeah. And here's what I want to say about the whole Eeli Tolvanen thing. It's like dating. You may date a really nice person, but they just might not be the really nice person for you, So it may not, don't get all over David Poile for breaking up with Eeli Tolvanen. He didn't say Eeli Tolvanen was a bad guy. He just says he wasn't the really nice person for him. So yeah,
Preds fans are already all over David Poile.
All I could think when I saw that was the gif from Lord of the Rings where the king says, "And so it begins," because I was like, oh, I know what's coming on Twitter.
Yeah.
And there it was.
And sure enough,
there it was.
Yeah. All right, and one more, and it's very minor, but and I know some people are not going to agree with me on this. I want to give a plus to Yakov Trenin for good hockey, but for dropping the gloves against Braden McNabb after the Mark Jankowski hit.
Yeah.
And look, I know there are people that are going to be, disagree with me. I know how people feel about fighting. I know people think that, dropping the gloves, for any reason is stupid. And, they say, well, best, retaliation is just, lighting him up on the scoreboard. I get it. There's the old school part in me, though, it's still always, if you take out one of our players, you have to pay a physical price for it.
Yes.
And,
I
so
get
to
that.
see, and there have been some moments this year across the NHL, not saying it's right or wrong, but, you've seen players take some dirty shots, some big hits, and, nobody in the team really kind of responds to it. And I will say, I do think that tells you about the closeness of this Nashville Predators team
Mhm.
when you see somebody like Jankowski, who's a relatively new member of this team. Again, he didn't really come to the Preds, an NHL lineup until what, like November or something like that. And, to see Yakov Trenin immediately just go over, drop the gloves, and, take Braden McNabb to task, definitely won that fight for sure. I mean,
Oh,
Yakov
yeah.
is the guy I would not want to drop the gloves with. He KO'd punches Zdeno Chara after all.
Yep.
And to see him take him to task for that and give some physical punishment, make him hurt a little bit. That to me is something that I personally
Mhm.
still like seeing in my hockey. Um, that's just me. I know not everybody has that same opinion, and that's okay. But I do want to give Yakov Trenin props for that. I do love, Nashville Predators. If you see somebody, get a big hit, taking a shot, there's always a scrum. There's always
Yes.
somebody else, throwing a cross check and stuff like that. And I do like that. And I do like that about the Nashville Predators. So yeah, a small plus to Yakov Trenin for that.
Can I add just real quickly onto that Yakov Trenin plus?
Yes.
Played great hockey. I agree with you about stepping up for his teammates. I also want to give a shout out to him because we got to talk to him after the Dallas game. First of all, his English is just, he's done a phenomenal job. He is also funny as can be. When asked what the team needs to do differently to get a win next time, Yakov Trenin said, start playing before the second period. So
Yeah.
Yakov Trenin, great on the ice, great defending teammates, and a little bit hilarious.
Yeah. Kudos to you, Yakov.
Love him.
Give you a little run for that. Well, as Anne mentioned, tomorrow the Predators play Les Habitants, aka the Habs, aka the Montreal Canadiens. That's at Bridgestone Arena, and then the Preds have a little bit of a Canadian adventure. They go on a multi-game road trip, and that kicks off. So the Predators looking for a big win at home tomorrow. We'll preview that game, plus much more on the state of the current Nashville Predators. Until then, though, I shouldn't have two TH words back to back. That's too tough. And just tell the people where they can find your work.
You can find my work online at insidethepreds.com, and you can find me on Twitter at AnnK_Mama on Ice.
And you can find me at ontheforecheck.com. Follow me on Twitter at _NSMorgan. Also, be sure to follow the podcast on Twitter at LO_Predators. And however you're listening to us, whether it's on your favorite podcasting platform or on YouTube, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you always know when we have fresh content out for you. That's going to do it for us on today's Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We'll be back with an all-new episode tomorrow. We'll see you then.